To another Lions Daily episode, man. And today we're here with our I don't know what we're going to call this in terms of the long run here, but this is where we kind of are going to wrap things up in terms of going through these player battles, going through the training camp battles, and specifically getting a really early look at what a 53-man roster could be for the Lions. I don't want to call this my official prediction because I think there's a little bit more that needs to be done, but I think we can lay out what it could look like early on here. And man, there's some tough battles. There's a lot of guys, though, that I trust at a lot of different positional groups, and I think that's the big positive walking away from this. There's a lot of guys that I think I know what we have, so I feel pretty confident about this year's 53. You know, shooting years past, we didn't know what we have at kicker and things like that, but I feel really good about a lot of these spots, which I think is a good problem to have. But the offensive line, it's a lot tougher than I thought it was. It's a lot tougher than I thought it was going to be. Like, how many linemen do we keep when you think about the battles last year and maybe the information that we gathered last season? And then, of course, now Netane Mutai. Hey, we haven't talked about Netane Mutai, but it's about time. We're going to talk about him today a little bit because he could have an impact on this. That dude could make the team because I think if there's a spot that's open on the offensive line, it's at the guard position. So I'll save the 53 kind of outlook thing for the end, but I want to just dive right into the whole offensive line discussion because there's so much to talk about with this offensive line battle. So let me throw the graphic on the screen that we have, and this will just kind of lay it out. Pretty much everybody's returning that was here last year that made the 53. But now everything gets messy because there's new additions. There's a couple of draft picks outside of Frank Ragnow, of course. This is what we're looking like for that offensive line battle. And this is how I'm going to lay it out for now. The locks, next in, and the bubble. And you can see one guy that was on the 53 last year that I now have on the bubble is Colby Sorsdal. We'll get to that, though, in a second. Let's start with the locks. All right, so Taylor Decker, he's a lock. Taylor Decker's going to make the team, starting left tackle. Christian Mahogany. I did consider, like, maybe I shouldn't put him in a lock. I don't know if I should put him in a lock or not, but no, he's a lock. Now, remember, he didn't actually come on the 53 initially last year. He was actually on the NFI list, but Christian Mahogany did take over the starting role last season, really behind the scenes. As a sixth-round pick, he took over the starting job from Kayode, who's also on this list, towards the second part of the season, and Kayode started to begin being a healthy scratch. Now, I think some of that is versatility. We're going to get to that conversation because Kayode is specifically a guard, so we'll talk about that. But he did take over a role last year when we didn't even get to see him how he took over that role, but he did. So Mahogany, I'm going to consider him a lock. Ratledge, draft pick, second round, he's a lock. Same thing with Miles Frazier here. I know it's a little bit later, but also on top of this, I just think Miles Frazier can be a starter in the NFL, similar to how Mahogany became a starter. It could also similarly happen behind the scenes, but this is one that should be a little bit more exciting because we're going to get a front row seat to see this, right? We hopefully will see Miles Frazier when preseason is happening, not just training camp and preseason. Like, I think for the offensive line, man, preseason is everything. 4 preseason games this year with so many veteran, like there's a handful of locks here and guys that we don't really need to see. That's where these guys are going to come in and shine. And it's so interesting to see how these battles shakes out because, like, last year, I'm watching back preseason film. We have Kingsley Eguakun, who's starting for the offensive line in the preseason. He doesn't even make the 53, but Michael Neese does, who was behind Kingsley Eguakun. So, it's like you can find a way into this mix. Now, hey, let me make this, be straightforward with this. Just because I have him listed as bubble doesn't necessarily mean I don't think they'll make the team. It's just kind of how I'm feeling right now and how I feel like this is, because maybe if you haven't given us anything to really go off of, I can't put you any higher. So in the case of Netane Mutai, I don't know what he looks like in 2024. Obviously, I'm not going to be sure what he's going to look like in 2025. And in 2023, I know what he looks like from the preseason, but he wasn't with the Lions. So it's a little bit difficult. But bear with me. We're going to give him some love today. I told y'all we would. We will. Okay? Penei Sewell lock. Graham Glasgow a lock. Some people may argue that he's not, I guess, but I don't. Even if he's not a starter, he's going to make this team. We need the depth there. And then Giovanni Manu. Maybe the biggest surprise lock, I guess, because I mean, last year we didn't see him outside of the preseason, but I thought last year's preseason just got better and better as he played. Also, it's the value of the position. Also, it's understanding the timeline that they expected it to come in on. Like the timeline that they laid out for Giovanni was not like, hey, year one, we expect at some point he's going to take over a role. Like, number one, there was no spot to take over, which was a good thing, but there wasn't. And number two, it would have been taking over like a Dan Skipper position. I don't think the expectation was ever that. I also don't think Dan Skipper played so horribly where it was like, well, maybe we should try it. Like, I actually thought Dan Skipper had his better season this past year, so I felt pretty good about that. So we go on to the next in group, and yeah, we get to the Dan Skipper conversation. This is where things get really interesting. We start to break down how this competition is going to shake out, because I do think that there is definitely room for both Manu and Skipper to make the 53 like they did last year. I think that's absolutely on the table. Where I think Skipper becomes interesting is more so the battle with the next group. It is the combination of how comfortable do they feel if, like, hey, Miles Frazier in a pinch, we push, because he's probably going to come in as a backup. But if Miles Frazier in a pinch, if we had to push him to back up right tackle, could he do it? And that would go alongside feeling, where are we at with Giovanni Manu, right? Because if we feel comfortable, like, hey, year 2, Manu's looking really strong in the preseason, we get to a point where it's like, all right, you know what? Manu would actually be above right now Dan Skipper on the depth chart in terms of a backup left tackle. If you get to that point with Giovanni Manu, then you can turn around and then make the conversation of, okay, well, how do we feel if we had to put Miles Frazier as our backup right tackle? And if you're comfortable with that, then maybe Dan Skipper starts to come into question a little bit. I think the more likely battle that could potentially take him out of actually making the team this year is the battle amongst Mason Miller, the undrafted free agent signing who played right tackle back in college for North Dakota State, as well as Jamarco Jones, who played a little bit in last year's preseason, had a pretty strong showing, but not to the point of, like, I'd feel comfortable with that guy playing. But it was like, okay, this is a good baseline starting point. We just didn't get to see him enough, unfortunately, there. That's where I think the real battle would come into play with him, as well as Colby Sorstel, because Sorstel transitioned last year into being our right tackle. Also, keynote on Colby Sorstel is that Colby Sorstel last year stayed active for the Lions. So as the season went along, when KO ultimately got a spot taken by Christian Mahogany, the Lions' active roster a lot of the times looked like this. The starting 5 alongside Dan Skipper, Michael Neese, and Colby Sorstel, not KO'd. It was Colby Sorstel continued to be active. Now, in the past, he played guard for us, but he didn't play guard at the level where I'm like that comfortable of, like, oh, he can just go to guard again this year. Like, there was a reason they moved him. They were trying to figure out what the heck is going to work here. So I do think that there's an absolute path where Colby Sorstel could overtake Dan Skipper. And the best way to probably do that is also alongside feeling comfortable with year 2 Giovanni Manu actually being able to play if he had to. If you get to that point where you'd be comfortable with him stepping in as your backup left tackle, because I don't think last year they were there, which is why Skipper was so valuable, because you could go left tackle and right tackle with him. If they could get to that point where they're comfortable with him as the backup left tackle, now there's a path for Skipper to be expendable. And I'm not saying I want him to be, but there's at least a path there. And Colby Sorstel could play that jumbo package role for you. It's just truly, it's straightforward here. Nothing for me that Colby Sorstel has done to this point makes me feel comfortable with him making the team. It would be truly what he does this year. He would have to take a big step. Preseason has to look strong. I don't feel that comfortable with him making the team as of what I've seen so far. But I'm not going to count it out to, like, it's impossible. It's impossible that he's good this year. Like, it's not impossible. Offensive line take a little while to transition. A lot of times there's a ton of factors that go into it because guys are trying to find the right role. In his case, he goes to guard immediately from tackle in college. You put him back at tackle. It's not great, but you're like, all right, maybe it's a little bit better here. Run blocking specifically, I thought that it was very capable. It's just pass protection was messy. You didn't feel like he had the range to live as an NFL tackle. So it's not impossible. There's not a world in which, like, oh, it can't happen for Colby. It could happen. Is it likely? Maybe not. Am I going to bet on it? No, but it could happen. Mason Miller, of course, is going from a really difficult position here as an undrafted free agent. Marco Jones, a little bit older as well. And then Nitain Mutai, who's truly battling for a straight backup guard position. But weirdly enough, I think this might be the most likely position where you could surprise some people and make this 53-man roster is a backup guard role. Is like, hey, if the Lions keep 10 offensive linemen like they did last year, this is how you do it. Now, I think there's a real possibility Lions only keep 9 this year instead of 10. And I think a big reason why they ultimately kept 10 last year was because of Michael Neese being able to play backup center. Like, as you're watching it happen, you're like, they don't really have a lot of center depth here, right? Like, so if Graham has to start, then who's the backup center? And at that time, we didn't have Christian Mahogany available. So they ended up keeping Michael Neese through the 53. But Michael Neese, to his credit, stuck around, and he's had experience playing guard. I think they view him more so as a backup center. But if you also want to add an interesting nugget to this when we start to pull it all together, Michael Neese played one snap against Indianapolis this season. I know that's, okay, one snap. It wasn't what he did on that snap, but it's the fact that he played one snap at guard. And the fact that he played one snap at guard and a guy like KO'd is a healthy scratch, I think that says a lot about some of the belief that they had in Michael Neese this past season as well. Maybe more so at guard than I even thought they had. I thought it was more like backup center, but maybe even more so than what I expected. So this battle is nasty. I want to talk and highlight a few players that maybe we haven't given that much attention to. So let's get right into that right now. Let's start to highlight some of these pieces on the offensive line. Again, we'll end it with kind of the 53-man roster discussion. The first guy we need to talk about is Tristan Colon. I think I said Colon again. I thought it was Colon. It may not be, but when Dan Campbell said Colon, it threw me off. So I'm just going to roll as Tristan for the sake of this Lions Daily episode. So Tristan, who these clips that you're going to see, he's playing backup center for Arizona in the preseason, but I know him more so as a guard. Or I shouldn't say backup center, but he's just playing center in the preseason for Arizona. I look at him more as a guard, but I think it is important that the Lions went out and signed him in unison with them also losing their center in Frank Ragnow. So when they lose Frank Ragnow, they go out and they add Tristan Colon or Cologne as their backup center. I think that Tristan is in a really strong spot to make this team because I think he's a starting level player. And so I go back and I'm like, all right, I've looked at a lot of his guard stuff. We've talked about Tristan before. I feel pretty comfortable with him being a backup guard. But let me go back through and see what it looked like when he was playing that center role because he played it throughout preseason, all 3 preseason games for Arizona this past season. What did it look like when he was doing that? Did it look like he could hold up there? And I walked away feeling like I might be the most comfortable with his film at center than everybody else that's a backup on this team. Than everybody else. I mean, Tate, we haven't seen it, but he's going to start. But outside of that, like every backup that we have as a backup center, I might feel the most comfortable with Tristan, and I like him as a guard too. I think he's going to end up making the team. I think when you watch Tristan, he's not overly athletic, but he has a very unique build, but it works for an offensive lineman. He's pretty short and stubby and stocky and wide frame, but it does kind of work out, but he still shows some real explosiveness when he has to open his hips, which shows some ability to pick up like stunts and work with games up front, which some of our offensive linemen like Nitain Mutai, I didn't think showed some of that juice, the way that he could open up some flexibility as a center and make it work. He also plays with extreme toughness. This is the thing about Tristan I think separates him a little bit as well. Like for an offensive lineman, you obviously want guys that are nasty. I think Tristan is a nasty interior offensive lineman. He's an absolute finisher as a run blocker and as a pass protector. He just finds a way to finish. He's got some nastiness to him. He's a fierce competitor. I think that translates well really to any position, but I think he shows that. A really strong latch, the toughness to his game that puts him in awkward spots. The biggest knock that I have for him is that he holds too much. I don't think he constantly resets his hands. I think sometimes he gets content with being in bad positions and just kind of grabbing and fighting, but it leads to some things getting a little bit not technically sound and him tending to grab a little bit when things tend to get away from him, which can be a problem. He's only 27 years old, though, at this point. He does get a little bit over-aggressive at times within his sets as well. And to me, he doesn't always control himself to reset. But for the most part, I feel really good about Tristan. I think that he's going to make this team. And I think that the fact that they signed him after losing Frank Ragnow means that they really view him as like this guy could be a backup center for us, even though that would probably be Graham. Like you would go that direction. But truly, like typically the way that we do things is like, okay, hey, you lose your center. We just push Graham in there and then we step somebody up at guard because that's where we've been. But let's say you came into the season and Tate's your center and Graham's your guard. If you lost your center, there could be a world in which you're like, you know what? The best 5 this year is going to be leaving Graham at guard and then just pushing Tristan into center. Like that's something that we could actually look to do this year that we haven't done in years past. I think he's capable of doing that. I think he's a capable starter, and we've seen that with Arizona. So I definitely think he's going to make the team. Did I list him as a lock? Let me double check. I don't think I listed him as a lock. I listed him as a next in piece. I think he's going to make the team. I feel pretty comfortable saying that he's going to make the team. The problem is I had 7 locks, so that's number 8 on the team, and now all of a sudden we're getting to, do they keep any more than that? And then who's kind of the next into that world of like, okay, this guy can make the team. Well, let's talk about another option potentially here for the Lions. And as we kind of, I had a lot more Tristan clips than I thought I had. My bad. I just put these in poor order here, but you're going to see it. I mean, you're going to see the ability to create movement, so that's fine. Let's go back to the Lions here and guys that were with the Lions. And I want to talk about Kingsley Eguakun because Kingsley does tend to get some love from Lions fans, understandably so. I think there was a lot of buzz about him when we picked him up from Florida. We gave him some guaranteed money. There was a lot of hope that Kingsley was going to put it together. And the more I watch, obviously I don't disagree with them. Like, let's not keep Kingsley last year. Like, I get it. Like, watching it, like, you wouldn't felt that comfortable. I remember not feeling that comfortable with him at center last year. I thought it was very messy. But I do understand bringing him back to wanting to see it again. This is how it typically goes with offensive linemen. It's going to take some time. And I think with Kingsley, there was enough there to be like, okay, we kind of want to see a little bit more. Because you speak about toughness. There's no question that he had that. And he's kind of a center-only fit, but naturally he plays with a lot of leverage because he's a little bit lower to the ground, which I think is great. He plays really fast. I just don't think he puts himself in great positions all the time. So he tends to be pretty aggressive and assertive with like, here's where I got to get to. It opens up some scheme flexibility. You see the toughness. You see the ability to work and roll his hips into position, which led to some effectiveness as a run blocker. And then you see some of the ability to create a pretty fast anchor in pass protection. This Kansas City Chiefs game was pretty effective. He keeps working. He can win early, as you see. You'll see an ability to kind of settle himself down in the lower body, even though the hands don't always tie into that. And then some scheme flexion. You get him on a wide zone. He can stay connected, run with the wide zone, and stay connected throughout the play. So I see that. But then you go to Pittsburgh, and it's like, this looks horrible. Like, straight up. It's like, this looks really bad. In fairness, though, everybody kind of looked really bad against Pittsburgh. Like, it was bad for Colby really struggled in this one. The edge rushers were giving us major problems. So I understand that it was a little bit messy for Kingsley. The problem is this was the third preseason game, so you didn't walk away like, oh, he's clearly taking steps forward every week. You walked away like that didn't look great at all. So this is a little bit messy. Stunt pickups, you wondered about that, giving up an edge, being awkward with that positioning early. You see that ability to get up to the second level, like, all right, there's a capable athlete here. He can run. You can get scheme. You're seeing wide zone runs with him. You're like, that's capable. Maybe he's getting to the right spot. He's just not connecting on these plays, which is a problem. But you see some of that toughness. Like, I'm just going to stick with the play. I'm going to stick with it. He showcased a lot of that. And you see it with some of the scheme stuff here, like the quickness to where he was getting to, as much as that athlete as he could kind of crank up to, like, all right, he can run a little bit in space. Like, I see some of that. The short area athleticism did concern me a little bit because he's not overly a people mover necessarily. And as you're going to see on some of these spots, like, okay, what we're getting to here, we got to connect. We don't connect. And the guy's just walking right past us on a zone block here. Or here, we try to create the double team. Now, okay, now let's climb the next level. The climb is way too slow. You didn't really create any movement. It's a tackle for loss. That was the kind of thing with Kingsley that was like, there's just too much that's messy here. I understand why you want to see more, but there's too much that's messy here for me to completely believe in. And that's kind of where I ended up with Kingsley Eguakun as a whole. This would have to be a big year for him to end up making the team because, one, I don't think there's a lot of flexibility. Maybe there's some guard stuff in a pinch, but I don't think that's what you want to do with him. He would have to win his backup center. Now, there's a path to doing that. There is. If they say, like, okay, Tristan's clearly better at guard. We don't really want to play him at center, and you're that great at center, you could make the team. Remember last year they had a lot of competition for the backup center, but a lot of unproven guys, and he's clearly the guy that they like the most because he's stuck around a little bit. I think a lot of it has to do with the kind of toughness that he plays with, but the early pass protection mirror was super messy. He just didn't set himself up well. The first contact was always all over the place. Like, there's some guy, like Tristan Colon, you'll see it. Like, sometimes he doesn't reset, but he has a lot more success early where he's getting hands on you. He can shut down the rep. He's stout, and it's like, all right, it ended right there. When it came to Kingsley, nothing felt like it ended early. Everything felt like, okay, he's got to kind of find a way to just make this work. There's just so much inconsistency early in reps. That's something that I can understand. You want to see more. It'll probably take some more time. But as of now, I didn't feel great about it. Now, I want to stay with the Lions, and let's go to another guy that played for us, and this is Michael Neese. And I got to be honest, Michael Neese had a strong preseason. It wasn't great, but you did feel like, okay, this could work. I could understand why they'd keep him around. And they did. They kept him around. Going back and watching the preseason again, I still kind of felt that same way. I didn't walk away like, yeah, Michael Neese, nobody's talking about this dog. But at the same time, I was like, I can understand why he'd make the team again. So when we look at him at backup center, again, he has the guard flexibility to go along with that. Last year, he did play in 4 games for us, played 34 snaps as a whole. Most of that was just working in towards the end. Again, Indy, he did have 1 snap, so if you want to call that playing, sure, he played, I guess. But it was at left guard, and again, he was a guy that was active and KO'd wasn't, so I think that says some things. You see enough athleticism as a mover, which I think opens up some scheme versatility to him. The big thing for me is he knows how to create movement as a run blocker, right? He knows how to create forward momentum. He knows how to create it through entry. You're seeing tight hands here against Dallas, right? When he gets into contact and then he can run with the block and sustain. You see those kind of things, like the little things as a run blocker. He tends to show a lot of awareness, climbing up the blocks. Where do I need to get myself positioned to? He's not overly athletic to the point where it's like he's so reactive where you're going to expect him to connect with a ton of blocks. He, again, is also a guy that doesn't bring much leg drive. I'm pretty concerned about that. My biggest concern for him is his ability to sustain blocks. That's the biggest thing I have. And I think at guard, that's even a bigger problem because you're dealing with these guys. Like, you're looking at the guards, right? Graham and KO. They got contact immediately. If you're constantly having guys shed those blocks and you can't latch and sustain consistently, it's going to be very difficult to live at guard, right? These dudes are just too big and too athletic. But at center, I think it gets hidden a little bit more because now it's about positioning. Okay, let me cut off this block. Now we can get to the next level. Now, in this case, the running back doesn't do that, and Craig cuts upfield. But you can understand, like, he's got a feel for this. He's got enough build-up. He stays pretty square. There's a lot of things that are technically savvy here. He just doesn't latch blocks with much consistency at all. So it's much more about the early positioning that he plays with and the tight hands and the angles as a blocker. And then in pass protection, it was a little bit better than I expected. You know, it was a little bit better. He doesn't have much of a jolt to him, and we talked about kind of the latching being a little bit of an issue. But in pass protection, he can create an anchor, and you see that. You'll see the way that he's kind of built. He's not very heavy. He's a little bit on the lighter side, but he can kind of create it through the hips, create a little bit of a lockout. There's some running ability as a blocker. Overall, I was not out. Like, again, I wasn't blown away by what he put together, but I felt like, okay, this guy has a real shot to make it again. Like, here we're hanging on to that combo, then we step up to the next level. Maybe a little bit quicker there, but he does do his job. That's kind of where I'm at with him. Like, I don't know that he's going to be great at anything because I don't think he's much of a mover. I'd like to see him get stronger after actually seeing this. Like, can he get a little bit more powerful this year? Because if he adds that, we could really have something here. But he's clearly smart and he knows how to get to the next level and block. So I think Michael Neese is absolutely in play. And the other guy that we haven't talked about, but we're going to give him some love, of course, is Nitain Mutai. The tough thing about Nitain is he's 26. He didn't play at all last year. So you got to go back to 2023. You got to go back to 2023 with the Raiders, not the Lions. And you got to go back to the 2023 preseason. So there's a lot of I don't know what the heck this is going to look like, okay? And that's what I'm actually kind of excited about because I don't know what it's going to look like. But he is unique. He's got some real length to him. He's got a lot of power in the upper body to him. And he's capable of playing both guard spots. He played 100 snaps in the preseason. Mainly we're seeing him at left guard, but he's capable of playing both guard spots. And this was a guy that was probably the most fun to watch, to be honest with you, because there's some really good and there's some really what the heck was that? All right, so it's number 54 as we're watching here. The big thing is he's got a lot of upper body force that he can create, and he creates early wins because of that. That's kind of his game. It fits our scheme. You think about how Miles Frazier won in college. He wins a very similar way. He's going to get hands on you early. He's going to try to shut it down early. He's going to try to stonewall guys. You see the awareness for stunt pickups. Like there's a recognition, and he can absolutely drive guys. This guy has the capability to push people just out of the play, double team, push you out of the play. He's very kept playing 4 or 5 yards down the field, then having some juice to just take off and pick up players. Like he has that downhill mauling style to him, which is somewhat unique, and it definitely fits the idea of being a guard. He's also, based on these games, the dude's built really well. He's strong as heck, but he doesn't look like he's carrying that weight poorly at all. He looks like a dude that could play linebacker. Athletically, he's built. Maybe not the best mover, but he's pretty built. You see some of that cutoff awareness here, being able to wrap himself around, hinge off blocks. In pass protection, I thought things got a little bit more messy because while you get some early wins, there's definitely a lot of ugliness here. And to me, one thing, his feet tended to stall out. So we'd get contact, and then he'd feel like here, he'd kind of get that push-pull on him. His feet would tend to just stall, and then he'd stop moving. I didn't think his recovery was overly outstanding, and a lot of that was he's not seemingly that flexible. So if a guy could get on his edge, I didn't know that he could really recover. You're seeing him duck his head. Pass protection was much more messy, so we're going to have to see that come together. But you see some of the drive. The leverage is kind of meh there, but he's very strong, so he's kind of just pushing people out of the play. The pass protection for me is going to be the biggest problem. Stalling on entry, reactive hips, lacking some flexibility. Those kind of things aren't great. And then also staying a little bit more patient, I think, within his strikes, being able to replace his strikes a little bit more consistently, and his hand placement was just all over the place. But he could win early, and he would attack people, and as a run blocker, he might have the most upside as truly a mauler on the offensive line, and those don't hurt. There's flexibility on both sides, as mentioned. The positioning felt pretty natural, like he knew where you had to get to. I think you can open up enough scheme flexibility. I don't know how much you want him running wide, but clearly you can go behind him like an outside zone like Mahogany. You could pull him. He did that a lot back in college like Mahogany. I think there's similarities into what his skill set is as a run blocker to Miles Frazier, to Tate Ratledge. I think there's similarities in how those guys play. The lateral quickness was fine. So, again, you could put him on some different zone looks, have him in some pass protection where he can play. He has enough range for guard, I think. It's not outstanding, but he's got enough there for guard. But that's probably where he's going to live, is at guard. Interesting piece, all right? Interesting. I just haven't seen anything recently, and I want to see him with the Lions. And if pass protection is sound, he's definitely a dark horse to make this team. I don't doubt that at all. He's a dark horse. So we now look at, and we kind of wrap this thing up by just getting an early look at what the heck this offensive line is talking about, okay? Or not the offensive line, this 53 is talking about. And I want to call this like my final prediction because it's not really, right? This was kind of quick, but it's an idea of what it could be, okay? So I want to talk through this a little bit here and try to make this make sense. So let me throw this up, if I can. Let me throw this up on the screen. So offensively, we're going to start there first. Quarterback, I just have us keeping 2. I do think Kyle Allen's a good addition. This is mainly just depending on what it looks like with Hendon Hooker. I'm just kind of assuming that with Hendon Hooker going into now year 3, but really year 2 as being able to play, after last season, I'm pretty confident he could be the backup and you could feel comfortable with that. So we'll keep those 2. And last year, he kind of earned that last year. Running back, I'm keeping the same 4 as usual here. I did mention that I think Horton could be interesting if you can consider him like a running back. Maybe he could upend somebody. I think the first 3 are pretty safe. We didn't really talk about running back, but I think the first 3 are obvious. We know what Craig is about. Special teams is a major part of this. So I'm just going to go with the same 4 guys they trust. Receiver, I'm keeping all 6, right? We said this last show. I'm keeping all 6. I'll go lighter at another position. I don't want to cut any of these guys. We're getting these images of Goff working out with the vets, St. Brown, J-Mo, Patrick. The other, maybe Raymond's the most likely to be on the out because Khalif Raymond, and it's weird because Tesla, I think, is clearly could be a lot faster onto the scene than a guy like Dominic Lovett's going to be. Because Lovett, I don't even know if I trust his hands right now. That said, though, the skill set wise, like you could see where it's like, all right, Lovett could surprise. I'm just keeping all 6. Khalif's still outstanding on special teams. I think Lovett will eventually be that, especially on coverage units. But for now, I'm just keeping all 6, and we'll just go from there. We'll cut somewhere else. On the offensive line, that's where things are very tough at the end because I do feel pretty comfortable with going through, hey, we got our starting line. We're going to keep Manu. We're going to keep Frazier, of course, as a draft pick. We're going to keep Tristan. Like, I feel really good about those 8, and that's awesome. I actually feel really good about Skipper. It's just now it's like, okay, there is competition here. It's just you might have to be more creative to find out how he doesn't make the team. I'm going to say we go 10. And for me, it came down to I think the door is wide open. I think there's a world in which Netane looks great. He's young enough. He's got enough things that are different to his game where it's like, hey, Lions want a people mover as a backup. I understand Frazier's that. Tate can be a little bit of that. Who's your backup that moves guys around, right? Tristan's kind of got some of that in his game. You want another one? You could potentially just keep Netane Mutai. I'd love to see it. I'm going to say right now for me it's between Kayode and Nice. The difference, though, this year is this. Last year at backup center, I wasn't that comfortable with anybody beyond Graham. And I think that Nice was able to fill into that opening of like, yeah, you don't really have anybody. You're keeping me. It was like, all right, cool. And that's not to say Nice played bad. We showed it. I like Nice. He can have flexibility on the inside. Kayode, the fact that Kayode was jumped by Mahogany, which is fine, but then not active down the stretch and a healthy scratch for like 6 straight games, that's concerning. But as you see, I also don't have Colby Storr still listed. So I'm going to say I'd lean right now to what I know, a guy that I know can move. I don't trust him as much in pass pro, and I think that's the biggest issue with Kayode. If you look at it, he played against Minnesota, allowed 4 pressures. After that game, it was kind of the end of him starting, and he only started 2 games. He started Seattle and Minnesota, both on each guard spots. After seeing that, I think that really put him in a spot where it's like, we can replace this. But as a backup, I'm hoping it takes steps forward. I don't know that it will. I'm going to say I'd lean Kayode being offensive lineman 10 because I think Tristan can play backup center and you can feel comfortable with that. If you want to have more of a backup center in there, you could keep Michael Nice, and I think you'd be very safe doing that, or you could just not keep 10. I'm going to give a slight lean to Kayode. When it comes to tight end, to open up that number 10 spot, I'm just going to say they keep 2 tight ends. I think that's one of the most wide open position battles. I think that there's a world in which any of those guys could actually make the team. Like, I don't think there's much separation between Horton, Luke Deal, Kenny Yeboah, Shane Zylstra. Zylstra could separate himself, I think, the easiest, but I don't think there's really a lot of separation between anybody. So I'm just going to say they keep 2. They try to bring somebody back on the practice squad, and they just roll with being lighter there. They've done it before. On the defensive side, oh boy, we went the wrong way here. On the defensive side, we've seen a lot of this. DJ Reader, Ty Leak, Levi, Lopez, Aleem is going to come in and not count towards the 53 as of now because I'm going to use one of those 2 kind of exceptions to the rule to get him through and just have him out for at least 4 weeks. He'll be out longer. Defensive end, Hutchinson, Davenport. I'm going to keep Muhammad around. I was recently watching back what was that? I think it was Thanksgiving, and Muhammad was out there like, bro, Muhammad's making this team. He's got a great path to do it. Let's keep Muhammad around. Wingo, hopefully he's ready to go. Pascal and Hassanin. Linebacker, we're going to go 6. We're going to go a little deep here. Campbell, Anzalone, Barnes, Stewart, Nowaski, and Cunningham. I think the biggest competition is Zeke Turner, whether that's jumping a guy like Grant Stewart or specifically potentially jumping a guy like Cunningham. This is very dependent on Campbell. We're not counting Rodrigo, but I also think the addition of Stewart could allow them to feel a little bit more flexibility with not having to keep a guy like Turner for certain aspects. But I think ultimately what Turner separates himself as, he can legitimately cover. He has coverage skills that outside of Cunningham, there's a lot of question marks between our backups. That's where he can separate himself. And Stewart, I don't think, is ever going to be great in man coverage. So he has a chance to separate himself. On the cornerback room, I'm going to go 5. This is where I'm going to be bold. We're just going to do it. Let's have fun with it. Whatever. I'm keeping 5. This is crazy, but I'm going to do it anyway. Reed, Arnold, Rakestraw, Robertson, Dorsey. Feel good about all those. I'm going to keep Eric Hallett. I told y'all last episode, like, I'm very interested to see how this shakes out. As of now, this is not my final 53. Don't hold me to this. You can't as of now, but this will change. As of now, I'm going to say Eric Hallett surprises. He's the shot player. He jumps onto the team. His flexibility and coverage is super valuable. It allows them to say we have a lot more flexibility with Maddox because we kept a 5th safety. Dan Jackson's going to be in there. Branch and Joseph will hold it down. You have more flexibility with Branch if you keep a 5th safety. I'm going to say Eric Hallett shocks the world and makes the team. I know, like, Lawrence Strickland could be this guy too. You can interchange these 2. I'm going to go Hallett. Let's get somebody new in there. I'm fired up to see what this dude looks like because we haven't seen it as line. I've seen it with Carolina, though. I think it was Carolina. Was it Jacksonville? Maybe it was Jacksonville. I think it was Jacksonville. I've seen it with Jacksonville, and I liked it. I'm excited to see what it looks like as a line. Obviously, we're straightforward. Special teams there. We know what that's going to look like. So that's your early me talking through what a 53 could look like for the Lions. But as you can see, like offensive line is tough, but it's a really good thing because I think we feel very comfortable about. I feel very comfortable about 8 to 9, depending on how you feel about Skipper. I'm pretty good with Skipper, so I feel pretty comfortable about 9. That could legitimately just be your cutoff. You could have like 9 guys like, yeah, it makes a lot of sense there. That could be your cutoff, and I'd be pretty fine with it. Tight end, it's just I don't know who's 3 is, so I'm just not going to keep one. I like all 6 receivers. I'm keeping all 6. Feel really good about our running back room as usual. That's been strong for years now. Quarterback, feel good about that. Defensive line, I think it's just deep this year. And now it's about, can someone separate? I really would like to keep Myles Adams. I think Pat O'Connor has a shot. I just don't know where I put him there. And he didn't actually make the 53 last year, so I'm not going to put Pat O'Connor on there. He didn't actually make it last year. But Myles Adams, I think, is very sneaky within that group. Linebacker's tough because the Alex situation. If Alex shows up, it's going to shake things up a little bit. I think Cunningham could be on the outs. But I don't know how it's going to shake out. And I think Cunningham is a good addition after losing Alex, so I'm just going to throw Cunningham in there. Cornerback is just Rock Ya-Sin or no Rock Ya-Sin. Stanley Thomas Oliver is in competition. He could shock some people. I just don't think it's going to happen. Rock Ya-Sin, I'd like to keep him. I think he fits us well. But let's say there's more downs there than ups. Maybe the Lions say we just want to go a little bit deeper at safety. And in that case, Strickland, Hallett, it's not a lot of known names, but they are dudes. Mo Norris. Who else am I forgetting there? I think that's really it. I think that's the main. There's a lot of guys. I mean, UDFA, right? Ian Kennelly. I'm not going to go Ian Kennelly because I don't know if I like him as a safety. Like, I just want to see, like, how creative we can get with him. I don't know if I love him as safety. There's just not enough there for me to buy into right now with Ian Kennelly and trusting many aspects of his game. Like, there's a lot of athleticism. His build is unique as heck. He's a hitter. He's tough. He's physical. His man, I'm kind of shaky on. I'm not sure he's that rangy as a safety. Special teams could connect. Does that put you on a team? Maybe. That could be enough. I'm just not comfortable enough to put him on a 53 because if it came down to Ian Kennelly versus Rock Ya-Sin, I would have to guess Rock Ya-Sin. In this case, Hallett, at least I've seen some in the NFL. But it's fair. Safety's all like that. Safety's like tight end, which is kind of like offensive lineman 10. So with that, I'm going to leave it there. Appreciate y'all joining for another episode of Lions Daily. After this week, we'll have to just kind of see where we go from here, so stay tuned. I know Lions-wise, we're going to get rolling because, we're right on the brink of things getting started here. But outside of that, we got some other big plans coming. I was huge on Mo Norris. I think I'm not – it's not that I don't like Mo Norris. I think I just buy into the flexibility of the other safeties a little bit more. Like, I don't know how much I trust Mo Norris's movement skills as much as I trust Lauren's movement skills. Like, I loved Mo Norris. I loved Lauren. Lauren was my favorite. He was, like, as bad as my 53 was. Because it was a disaster. All right, let's be straight up and honest. It was a disaster. The one that I did get, and I was like, I'm just going to talk about this one, was Strickland. So I love Strickland. But there wasn't enough of Mo Norris. Like, Mo Norris had such a short stint. He got hurt in the first game, came back, played 1 snap, gave reception. Just wasn't anything there. Mo Norris would have been much more based on training camp if I really liked him, which is why it's difficult. Strickland, I have 3 preseason games to go off of. Hallett's a little bit tough because it's not with the Lions, so maybe that one's just more excitement than anything. I don't really know. But, like, between those two, I just have more to base on with Lauren. Mo Norris, I'm not really sure, and I really want to see what his body type comes in as. Another guy like that is Deron Gilbert, of course. Like, I don't really know what I'm getting in Deron Gilbert. I think Deron Gilbert also missed, like, a significant amount of time. So I don't know what the heck I'm going to get. And body type-wise, like, could he change his body a little bit? Like, maybe he bulks up and that makes it better. He kind of falls in that. Like, both guys probably liked them both during training camp. I remember really liking Gilbert. I just don't know how they fit. I don't know if they're NFL players, to be honest. Like, I got to see it. And this is a good year to do that. Dan Jackson is making the team. He was on there. He should have been on there. If he wasn't, that's a mistake on my end. No, he's on there. All right, we got to get out of here, though. I got to do a recording with my man. So I'm going to jump out of here. I'll see y'all over here on BR. Thank you for joining, and go Lions. YouTube. So, yeah, I got to go do a show. I don't know if he sent it to me yet, though. I'm going to do a show with Bro Schmo. I don't know where he's going to send me the link. Probably somewhere here. I don't know. But I'm going to do a show with Bro Schmo. He wants to talk about the Lions for 2024 or 2025, like kind of just a full breakdown. So I'm going to do that show with him. That's in a few minutes. We can hang out here until he sends me the link. Has he sent me the link? Yeah, he ain't. Oh. Wait. Weekend. Oh, no. Okay. That was after. Okay. Yeah, no, he should be sending it to me anytime now. So I'll wait. But we're going to talk about some over there, so he'll post that. I think I don't know when he's going to post that. He's going to post that at some point. So that's next up. I am close to the draft thing. So today I went through a few D linemen today, and I'm really now kind of strictly down to just hit on some of these quarterbacks, get a little background on the quarterbacks, feel good about that, and then we drop the first mock. I think that's the best way to do this. My plan, next week we should have our mock draft out. Like I'm pretty confident. I'm pretty confident it's going to be out. All you need to say, Broshmo, it ain't coordinators, it's the O-line. What to watch this year? Has he been cooking, or the fact that we lost coordinators? Broshmo's a hater? Hold up. I'm about to find out. We're about to find out. He gave me the topics, though. And I think that all the topics are the same as what I've seen all the other videos as. Like you were just reflecting on last year, which I don't want to do that, but we always have to do that. I hate doing that, by the way. I hate reflecting on last year, but we got to do that. So I don't like talking about last year, bro. Like y'all seeing it. Y'all watching quarterback. I'm watching quarterback. And it's great, but it's also sad because they're like, yo, we were so good. We were so good, man. We just got to the episode where we played Green Bay and we beat Green Bay. And Dan Campbell gave his little speech, which I don't remember seeing this during the year. So that was pretty cool, where he's like, yo, it's going to be on the offense. Y'all got to score. We're going to go for it every time. And they did. They went for it a lot. But, like, seeing that and then seeing them win the game like that was, like, cool because, like, yo, we were, like, 10-1 or 11-1. But at the same point, it was like, this is also when things went downhill in the sense that, like, it caught up to us, bro. You know what I mean? Like, the mindset was right. We just didn't have enough, man. We didn't have enough, and it's sad. It's sad, bro, because that's such a historic season. To win that many games is insane. I don't know that we'll ever win 15 games in a regular season again. Like, I don't know that it'll ever happen again. That could be the last time. At least in my lifetime, the Lions win 15 games in a regular season, assuming they don't go to, like, 20 or something. Like, that's so rare. I wonder how rare that is. That feels so rare for your team to win 15 games, even in the 17 game. What percentage is that? Let me look it up. Let's see. Oh, I guess this wouldn't count, though, because it's 16. Only 9 NFL teams have won 15 or more games in an NFL season. Why do they say the Chiefs are the latest to accomplish this? What? Why didn't they list us? We won 15 games? Yo, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, okay. Yo, that's crazy. They didn't list us, though. Here we go. We're the latest to accomplish it. That's crazy work. So, yeah, 9 teams have done it. 2 teams since they've had 17 games. So only 2 teams have done that. That's crazy. That's what I'm saying, though, Charles. That's what I'm saying. Like, when we talked today, I had that in my mind. Like, if he asked me, like, how many games, like, at best could y'all win, I'm straight up going to tell him we could go undefeated. Like, I'm going to tell him, bro, like, why not? Why not, dude? We could win every game. I'm going to tell him that. It's kind of a joke, but not really. Like, I could see a world. Like, our schedule's tough, but we could. I haven't really thought about that, though, like, in terms of, like, breaking down the schedule since we've done it. Has been better every year. We go undefeated. I think AG was an anchor. If it's better than being away, look out. So you think, like, in a bad way, or you think he was, like, an anchor in a good way, or, like, he was pulling the defense down? Sorry I'm late, but I think Tate wins center, working out with Kelsey and Frank. Oh, that's good. I didn't know that. I think he's going to be center, too. I think he will be, too. My thing is this. Like, get the best 5 on the field. But if it's close, I think long-term the idea is center anyway, so let's just do it. Like, you might have some bumps early, which would stink. But, like, I'm not against just, like, all right, let's just throw him out there and see what happens. Like, it's different with Sewell because, like, at that time you were bad anyway. So, like, making him go to right tackle and then be like, oh, shoot, we got to put him back at left tackle because the guy's hurt. But I'm kind of like, if it's close, shoot, just put him at center. If that's what the long-term vision is anyway, let's just get a start on it now. Let's get this thing prepared. Let's not kind of, like, wait around. Like, I don't know if we trust him there. Like, nah, just go to center. And again, I think he's going to be better at center because I liked him at guard. You know what I mean? But, like, I didn't think he was incredible at Georgia at guard. At least not before the draft. But I think center just suits him. My favorite narrative, National thought we're going to fall. Fail because Dan isn't X's and those guys. It's crazy. It's great. You know what's making me more confident, though? Weirdly. This is weird. Watching, like, old games. Like, I've had, like, old games on in the background over the last couple of days, like, from 2023. Not 2024, but, like, 23, 22. And just kind of, like, seeing those. For some reason, they've made me believe, like, you know, we had great coordinators. Like, Ben was awesome. But, like, weirdly enough, it's giving me, like, confidence. Like, oh, no, we're gonna be able to do this again. Because I think, like, some of it even gets blurred. Not, like, play calling, but like how good we were, like you kind of remember all the bad in there too. Like I start to forget a lot of the bad of anything. Like you get away from it. You're like, oh, we were 12-5. We were cooking offensively, and I start to forget like any of the bad that happened. But when you start to watch the old games, you kind of remember like, oh yeah, that was pretty rough. And so I'm watching. I'm like, this doesn't feel like unattainable. Like we can't get back to this because Ben's gone. I mean, the offense got better every year. I'm sure Ben got better every year, and he was amazing. And this isn't, you guys know, I think Ben's outstanding. But it's also like the roster did get better too. And it seemed like, as the roster got better, like they did just get better. Like you could feel it. Like, oh, okay, the offensive line's a little bit better now. And shoot, especially watching those old games, you definitely felt like, okay, I understand why they're like, let's get younger at offensive line. Because, dude, some games were not great. some games were rough, man. You forget them. There were some rough games in there. When does training camp start? So I think they dropped tickets to 15th, and I think it start like the 20 something, 22nd or something. I'll just throw out a random date. Let me look. 20 something, 26. I'm actually not sure, to be honest. Next Sunday, 26. Okay, yeah. Oh well, 26th is the ticket holders. Yeah, the loyal members, season ticket holders. I think that is. So 28th for everybody else. 26th. What? 15 days. So next Monday, like 2 Mondays. I'm dropping the. Okay. See the line of secondary. Me too, man. I'm fired up for all of it. The plan is to do shows from down there, so I'm pretty pumped. Reminded me that we set a franchise. Yeah, I saw that. That was the game. I think that was one that we watched yesterday. Was Carolina? Was that the Carolina game? Where like Jared was like, "Yo, look at that." Excited to see next Sunday. Yo, it's news. Wide receiver 2, 6 years, $40 million. They got a bargain. That's what that is. That's a bargain deal. Congrats, Lions. Y'all stole me. That's what that is. If it's 4 years, $60 million, or 6 years, $40 million, I might have to negotiate that. To be honest, that might not be enough. That's how I'm thinking about it. But I'll say this: the one thing that's holding me back about my mock draft, I want to trade up with the Lions. Like we're about to head out of here, but I'm doing it, and I'm like, yo, I kind of want to trade up because like I like some of these dudes that I think are probably gonna be high picks. And there's so much that's gonna change. So I'm like, how tight do we keep this? Because like so much of this is going to change. But like a big part of me is like, I kind of want to like move up because Lions they have them at like 27 as a projected. So I'm just gonna use that. I kind of just want to like trade up to like 20 and just go draft somebody that like we wouldn't get at 27 as of now, like what people would think. Just because I like watching this dude, and I think like I get fired up, bro. I'm getting fired up watching these draft prospects. I'm pumped for that. So next week, maybe this weekend, I'm gonna see if it's possible. But next week we're gonna drop a mock. Bro, I'm telling you, I've already been through like 40 players. Next week we're gonna drop a mock. It's gonna be good. I'm slowly working through these guys. It's gonna be a lot of fun. But anyways, I'm gonna head out. We'll be back. I'm gonna go do my show with Broshmo, so stay tuned for that. I don't think it's gonna be live, but we'll do a show over there, and I will see y'all soon. Draft NFC teams. Golden JJ Amon. Draft NFC teams. Golden. Oh, you're saying like the receivers? I'm taking Saint first because he's our guy. No, I mean Jefferson, Saint, and then Golden. Golden's at the bottom. Golden's behind Chicago's receivers. Hooker Timon coming. All right. Hey, it is though. Carlos, it's good to see you in here, man. I'm glad you're here. We'll go live again soon, man. I'm trying to pull off some kind of collab or something. All right, I gotta get out. I'll see y'all.